Que onda suceso arriba las manos, caballo moreno penetra tu barrio.
Hello there, my patriots. It is June 17th, 2019, and yes, we are just days away from the official start of summer. June 21st, in case you don't know. Might be some leftists out there that don't know their ass from their elbow, so we will tell them. And no, I won't draw you a picture. But anyway, you see Joe Biden out there on the campaign trail. It's like watching friggin' snails fuck with him. I don't know, is he retarded, drunk? Did he have a stroke? I mean, he's got like 85 people showing up at an event where Trump gets thousands. And the news reports, CNN, MSNBC, and all the leftist ilk on the news, they're reporting that Joe Biden is ahead of Donald Trump in the polls. First of all, there has been no debates. He hasn't won the nomination yet. They haven't even had any debates. Yet, Joe Biden's win. I'll tell you what, these polls have been bullshit for years. I mean, if the polls were even a little bit accurate, we'd be talking about how President Clinton would be preparing her re-election campaign as the Republicans go into their primary, which isn't happening. So the news is resorting to their bullshit tactics that they tried years ago that didn't work. They'll try the bullshit tactics that hopefully we don't fall for this time around, because their job is to lie and manipulate the public into voting for national suicide. That's basically what voting for Democrats would be. National fucking suicide. This republic would be dead. It would die a hard death. And I often ask myself, how can they do these things? When in our Constitution, every state is guaranteed a Republican form of government. So how can they subvert from that without at least a constitutional amendment? They talk about doing away with the Electoral College. You're not going to do that without a constitutional amendment. And I do not think you're going to get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate to go along with it. Yet, you're definitely not going to get 3/4 of the states. Because I can tell you what, I can think of about 20 states that would say, no way, I'm not losing my representation. No fucking way. What, be governed like you assholes in New York and California? Fuck you. You guys are fucking sinking in shit, literally. San Francisco got human feces all over the fucking place. I tell you what, you go to San Francisco, you better bring 20 pairs of shoes and be willing to throw 19 of them in the trash. It's disgusting. And that's what we're going to end up with if Democrats get into office and take control of Congress and the Senate. We're going to have a complete country filled with feces in the streets. That's what's going to end up with. And they sit there and talk about how they're going to give you this, give you that. Oh, we're going to give you free college. We're going to give you free pre-K. We're going to give you a job. We're going to give you an income. We're going to give you a house. We're going to give you health care. How the fuck are you going to give anybody anything? You have to steal it from somebody to give it to somebody else. That's why I don't understand how when they talk about this shit that's not in the Constitution and shit they're not allowed to do isn't bribery and theft. There should be laws in place. The legislator should work on this when we have a Republican legislator and a Republican president, and we have majorities, that you cannot offer largesse from the Treasury to anyone and threaten to steal it from anyone. That's all it is, oh, we're going to give you this, but we're going to steal it from them. But I'll tell you what, the people that they're telling you that are going to pay these taxes are the people that are funding them. So you know damn well they're going to the people that are their funding sources, and they're saying, dudes, don't worry. You're not going to have to pay for shit. We're going to make sure you got tax loopholes and places to hide your money, but we're going to make it look like, hey, we charged you more over here, but you can hide more over here, so it'll even out. May even be better for you in the long run. Don't worry. These middle-class jokers that think they're getting something for nothing are going to do the paying. And believe me, if you look at the past 50 years, any law that they made that was taken from the taxpayer to give to somebody else, the middle class has ended up footing the bill. And it's not going to be any fucking different in the future. We are having an economy on fire right now. We have jobs that can't be filled. We're at 3.2% unemployment. Every day there's more jobs created. More jobs created. Can't fill them, but they're being created. We're going to have to increase our HV2V, whatever visa that gets the skilled people in here. So that's what I don't understand. They're telling us, oh, our wages have been stagnant for a long time. This is the Democrats. But do they tell you why that our wages are stagnating? They are going up, but not as quick as they could. And I'll tell you why. Because the influx of illegals that put a strain on the labor market. Yes, if the illegals were gone and we didn't have this influx of cheap labor, the Americans that would do these jobs would get paid more because there'd be more of a demand for the laborers. But now since we're flooding the market with cheap, unskilled labor, these entry-level jobs or these low-paying jobs are going to stay low-paying jobs because there's way more people flooding the market than there are jobs. You see how that works? Letting these illegals in here unfeathered is depressing wages. So any Democrat that tells you that incomes haven't grown, remind them that they keep letting the fucking illegals in here that are fucking hurting our wages going up. So, remember that. And you know what? Any fucking Republican that wants an open border, remember, they're doing it for the opposite reason. They're in bed with the Chamber of Commerce, which wants this influx of cheap labor because it keeps prices low so these people can make more money that are the heads of these industries. You gotta look at what the gears are in these processes of why these things are being done. And when you see what's happening, it has no benefit to us as citizens. It has benefits for a few. The few that are backing these people. So any Republican that says that the illegals need to be given amnesty or need to be influxed or the border wall is bad, they're in bed with the Chamber of Commerce and they want the cheap labor. Any Democrat that says they want the influx of illegals and don't want the border wall, they want to flood this market with uneducated people that hopefully they can get citizenship status or at least voting status so they can tip the balance in their favor. See, the Democrats can't do it the traditional ways. They can't go say, here's some good ideas we have, and the voters say, yeah, we like your ideas, we'll vote for you. Because all their ideas are shit. They're garbage. You look at anything that they tell you is going to hurt us. They're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. You know what that's going to do? First of all, it's going to increase the price of everything. It'll cause inflation. So anybody that is making money, their dollar's not going to be worth as much. And on top of that, you're going to get rid of entry-level jobs because some jobs just aren't worth $15 an hour to do. And you're going to get more automation. So you're hurting the worker there. So there's just so many variables. Like the free healthcare. Everybody's going to get free healthcare, sorry. But when you look at the free healthcare, we're rated 37th in the world in healthcare. But they don't go by quality of care, survival rates, which are very good. You got cancer in America, you're like 10 times more likely to survive than if in England. Because if you got to get tests to find out if you have cancer and get treatment, you could be waiting 6 months a year for these tests. I heard for MRIs or something like that, they were backed up like 6,000 people for like months, almost a year. So what they do, they went through the list of people waiting online, waiting for the MRI, and they say, this one don't need it, this one don't need it, this one. Just arbitrarily took off 6,000 people and said, look, we're caught up. That's why free health care with a high mortality rate is bullshit. That's what they want to give us. Free health care with a high mortality rate. I don't want that. Do you want that? I'd rather have the health care system we have. Oh, so they bankrupt people. I'll tell you what. I'd rather be bankrupt and healthy than fucking wealthy and dead. So don't give me this bullshit. I'll tell you what. If your life isn't worth everything you have, then maybe your life isn't worth living. That's the way I look at it. Take all I got, make me well. You know, and when you run out of money, you'll still get the care, because you got charity care and all these other places to get care, so they're not going to leave you high and dry. They're not allowed to. So I don't understand why everybody wants this free health care, and why murdering children have to be part of the health care system. I don't think murdering children on any level should be funded by the government. Get the devil out of our government. Well, these are just a few things that I wanted to talk about, because you got Joe Biden snoring his way through conference after conference, rally after rally, nobody's showing up, but he's the one that's going to beat Donald Trump. None of these people are getting any kind of crowd. So I think that Trump, without massive fraud, and I think even with at least a percentage of massive fraud, will still win. And I'm not worried about these idiots that say that they want their electoral college to vote with the popular vote. Because first of all, any interstate compact needs to be approved by Congress. And you're not going to get Congress's approval in this, I don't believe. Second of all, when a candidate wins a state, he places his delegates. And I don't think Donald Trump would place delegates that would vote against him on any form. I think that's how it works. Because I remember, Donald Trump, you won the state of blah, blah, blah. Who are your delegates? And they would give you a list of names of who the delegates are going to be. So I'm not worried about that. See, these leftists are going to try to subvert rules, laws, anything they can to give themselves the edge. And the reason the Electoral College is even more valid than it was even back then, because these little states like Rhode Island and even like Georgia or the Carolinas didn't want New York, Philadelphia, Boston being the rulers of all the colonies. And that's how it works today. We don't want New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago being the rulers of the country, because we don't want authoritarian leftists running all the states. See, people lost the concept of what our federal government was supposed to be as opposed to the states. Our states are like our countries, and our first loyalty is supposed to be to our state. Unfortunately, New Jersey is a leftist authoritarian state, and it's very hard to be loyal to its government. I'm very loyal to the landmass that is New Jersey. It is a beautiful state. It has a lot of good things. But our government is shit, essentially. And they are fucking us out of our liberties. New Jersey does have a constitution that does not have a Second Amendment mirror. And that's part of the reason why they get to bend us over and fuck us in the ass with the Second Amendment shit. And believe me, when I retire, I am fucking gone. As much as I do love living in New Jersey, I'm getting the fuck out of here because I want to taste a real fucking liberty. Even if that means Texas, Florida, somewhere in the Midwest, I don't care. I will be getting that taste of liberty before I die. So, that's why we have an electoral college. So these fucking leftist shitholes don't fucking run roughshod. You tell me, laws that apply to New York, which are crowded and everybody's stacked on top of each other, like noise pollution laws, leash laws, do you think these would be effective in Wyoming? Where all you have is fucking people living miles apart on acres and acres of land? You think a 6-foot leash is going to be helpful to a guy living on a ranch? Can't shoot his gun after 10 o'clock at night even though nobody's going to hear it? It's retarded. And that's what these leftists want to do. They want to make it so difficult to live free in the rural areas that they're going to force us into the cities. Get us out of our cars, get us off our property, into a rented apartment, into mass transit, so they can have their boot on our necks and take our weapons. The leftists have a plan, and it's to subjugate us into a subservient class of people. You're going to have your very small class of government and wealthy people that are going to control all of us. And that's bullshit. And I say any move to subvert our Constitution and do away with the I'll tell you what, if you do away with the Electoral College, I believe you make the U.S. Constitution null and void, and no state will have to answer to the federal government. You null and void it. And I think any subversion to our Constitution in that manner will make it null and void, because that's not the agreement that was signed that started it. Alright, that's what I got to chew on. Donald Trump is not behind by any means. People know better to talk to these leftist dickheads. And he's gonna fuck up whoever is gonna be the Democrat candidate. He's gonna rip him a new asshole. You watch. Alright, everybody. Have a good one. See you next time.